Hello, everyone, and welcome to our week 3 presentation. And this week we're going to be talking about the interview. We're going to continue our conversation that we began in week 1 and then also in week 2 about general points and strategies to improve your interviewing skills. More specifically, though, this week we're going to be focusing on the virtual online interview, which is becoming more and more important and more common in today's labor force and labor market. Okay, so as I said, we're going to be discussing a few interview tips. Some of them we've already been talking about and we've already discussed previously. Some of them I'm sure that you know very well, perhaps, and may even have incorporated these tips in previous interviews. Some of them are pretty common, straightforward, but others are not so straightforward. They're not so intuitive, and so it's important that we go through some of these. And I think they will be helpful for you as you, not only for this course, but as you enter into the labor force again, or continue in your path to find that dream job or that position that you have been aspiring for. Okay, so the first tip that I want to discuss, and by the way, there's a ton of resources in the web that you can access that will help you, give you pointers and such. One of them, which is the source of this presentation, is from Harvard Business School, and it provides 9 important tips for improving your virtual interview skills. So tip number 1 is testing your technology, okay? And we forget that the most important part of an online interview is being able to actually have the interview in many ways, that because a lot of things can go wrong, right? You can have connection issues, you can have power outages, you can have poor or unstable Wi-Fi or internet. And so there's so many things that can go wrong. And so it's important to create a list of the things that you need to double check. Did I pay my internet? Did I pay my cable, right? If your cable is bundled into with your internet, is that, are they going to cut this thing off right in the middle of my interview or the day before, right? Do I have a backup plan in the event that something happens? For example, as a suggestion, what I do sometimes is if for any reason there's a power outage, I know that I can use my phone as a modem. I can simply connect to my iPhone, and though only temporary, because I don't want to use my entire data on the interview, but it's important that at least you have that backup, where if you do lose power in the middle of the interview, you have power on your computer, right? And that's also important to make sure that your computer is fully charged, and of course your phone also fully charged, so that in the event that you have a power outage or a cable outage, you're still able to reconnect with your computer and your iPhone as a backup. So that is a suggestion that you might want to consider. As far as the other aspects, for example, camera eye, make sure that you are at eye level, right? So one of the ways that you can test this is by actually creating one of these presentations and seeing right? You record yourself and see if I look at the camera where the little light is pointing, does that look natural? Okay, well, does that look natural, or should I direct my eyes shortly below that or roughly below that? All right, so do different test runs to see where exactly you should aim the eyes. And then what you can do is, once you've identified that one spot on the screen, then you can mark the spot, right? Of course, don't use a marker, but you can perhaps paste a very small piece of a post-it note, right? A very little corner where you can focus your attention to that post-it little piece of paper, and of course it'll give you not only will it give you a marker to look for, but it's also going to create a very uniform interview where it's the interviewer, the person on the other side, is always able to make eye contact as well. So camera at eye level, right? And also this means elevating your laptop. If my laptop right now, for example, is sitting on 4 books, and you need to do that, right? Because if my laptop was not sitting on the 4 books, then I would look a little weird, right? And so you don't want that. You want to look like you're at the right level. Check lighting, right? Test for lighting. What I also have is I have background light. I have the light in my office, but I also have, and you can't see it here, but I also have a lamp that's actually on my desk without the shade. And so if you take the shade off, it gives this warm light that makes the lighting appropriate, adequate. Okay, so check that before you have the interview. And again, do a mock interview with your spouse or with your kid or with a friend, and check for these details. So again, check your internet connection, check the audio. Okay, am I too loud? Or worse, am I too soft because my microphone is so low that they can't hear me? And that happens a lot in online teaching and learning. So you don't want that to be a distractor in the interview, where the minute that the interviewer needs to ask you to raise the volume, that's not good, right? And sometimes we may not know where we raise the volume in the computer, and it just it creates a distraction that you want to avoid. So make sure that your volume is appropriate. And also, along these lines, also test your speakers and microphones. And if you can invest in a microphone, I would strongly encourage you to do so. Here's my microphone. It's not a terribly expensive microphone. It was actually a gift from my wife, and it's good because it captures your voice and it filters out undesirable noise. It makes for a better, a more professional interview. Avoid bulky headset. So if you don't have the if you don't want to listen or don't have a place where you can have a quiet interview where you can hear the interview questions clearly without any problem, I would recommend using earbuds, right? Don't use that Sportscaster headset because it is distracting. Also takes away from the aesthetic value of you looking presentable and looking very sharp, right? So you want to avoid that bulky headset. Another thing that you might want to do is move closer to the router. So in some places, my house, for example, there's some spots that don't have as good a bandwidth signal as others. You can do different tests, and you can test the speed. Do speed tests within your computer in different places, and find the place that has the best speed, and obviously offers all the other scenic properties that you want for that interview. You can also use the chat feature to inform the interviewer if you can't hear him or her. It's important that you have that, and it's important that if you didn't hear a question, or that if and this happens at times, the sound may go out for a few seconds, but you won't be able to hear something important in a question. It's okay to ask and say, could you repeat that question, please? You were breaking up, and that's perfectly understandable in a virtual interview. But it's important, and it's better to ask than to assume or try to guess what the other person was asking. So set the scene and minimize distractions. Okay, these are very nice office spaces, both, right? In maybe not all of us are able to have such clean and organized office spaces, but there's many things that you can do to get rid of those distractions, right? For example, your background, okay? Make sure that your background is clean, that there is avoid beds, for example, avoid clutter, avoid anything that is messy. If you have an office that you can interview at, that would be preferable. Again, use a microphone if possible. Also, what I do when I teach and when I interview is I leave a space on my desk for a notepad, because in interviews you can take notes, right? Especially interviews that have multiple interviewers and long interviews. It's okay to have a notepad and to jot down questions and information, because that's going to help you provide better answers. And if that's something that is useful for you, then by all means, it's something that you should use. There's this other suggestion from Harvard Business School, and that is to sit down prepared. And what does it mean to sit down prepared, right? And it's basically just being prepared to answer common interview questions. And there's many questions that are asked in interviews. So the more you are prepared to answer these types of questions, the better you're going to be. For example, that you might be asked about the company. So what do you know about our company? Tell us about our company. What have you heard about our company, right? If you don't have a response about that, chances are you will not go forward in the interview process, because it shows that you were not prepared and don't know at least the basic minimal information about this company. It shows that you have very little interest in this company. So what do you know about the company? What are you looking for in a new position, right? If you cannot articulate to the interviewer what you are looking for, what is your aspiration, why you are even applying for this position, then chances are you're not going to make a good impression on the interviewer. And of course, as I mentioned in our previous week 2 lecture, it's paramount that you know your CV well. Okay, the details, dates, if there are any gaps, be prepared to explain the gaps in your CV, but know your CV very well. It's important to practice, but not memorize. Okay, so practice. When you do practice for the interview, Practice, practice different approaches, different styles, different ways to answer, but don't memorize responses. Don't memorize sequences even, because it will change. It will never be the same in the interview as it is in when you practice. It's never going to be the same. Responses are never going to come out the same. You won't remember them in the same way. And so what's important is that, like a test, like you would for studying for an exam, that you study, that you practice and study your responses. And trust me, when you are asked in the interview, that practice and that studying will kick in, and you will be able to respond articulate and very well to those questions without sounding like you are actually memorizing something, or that you have memorized something and it sounds like a very packaged response. Monitor your body language, right? Check your body language. And again, when you do these interview practice trial runs, and you can do these on Zoom, for example, you can do them on Prezi, you can do them on a number of different softwares, but you do them and check your body language. Am I slouched? Am I are my eyes focusing in the right place? Do I look arrogant? Do I look confused? Do I look confident? Okay, be very critical of yourself. When you look at yourself, think about put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer. Think about yourself as interviewing yourself, and ask yourself, would I give a job to this person? What is the initial feeling that I get from this person? Is it a positive vibe? Is it a negative vibe? Does this person look professional? Does this person seem confident? Does this person seem competent? Okay, and body language has a lot to say about those things, right? And there's always a fine line between confidence and arrogance, right? Or a fine line between honesty and simply being unprepared, ill-prepared, and not knowing how to answer things, and your body language showing that. So it's important that you practice and check your body language when you do these test runs. So this is very it goes without saying, right? This is very basic, right? You dress the part, okay? You dress the part. For virtual interviews, you should treat these in the same way that you would treat a face-to-face interview. Nothing is really different. It's the same company. It's the same, likely the same interviewer, and it's the same position, and the requirements and the expectations are the same. The only thing that changes is the delivery. It's the interview, the tool, right? The fact that you're doing it virtually. And by the way, what's happening now more and more is that firms are having virtual interviews in the first stages of the interview or the hiring process. And as you get closer to the later stages, you are likely to be asked to come in. So you will have to do both, right? And that's important because you want to make sure that the image that is portrayed in the virtual interview is consistent with the image that is portrayed when you show up in person, right? They are going to be expecting a type of person, the person that they saw in the virtual interview. So make sure that that same person is the one that shows up, right? And a lot of this has to do with our attire and dressing the part, right? Avoid jewelry, right? So jewelry in moderation. Obviously, not huge or flashy earrings. Perhaps avoid those. Wear a business attire, conservative suit for the ladies, and of course the length of skirts appropriate, right? And avoid flashy colors. So if you can go with black shoes or dark blue, black, it's always preferred. This is the color of business, right? Business attire. For the gentleman, obviously, you can't go wrong with a suit, even if the position and even if the industry that you are applying or that the company is found in an industry that you're applying for, even if that industry is an industry that, say for example, construction, right, where engineers are wearing hard heel boots and jeans and such, that doesn't mean that you show up in that attire. You always want to dress professionally, and if you don't know, it's better to be overdressed than to be underdressed. So if you think that you might be, if you think, for example, that the interview is casual, and it might, you might get an interviewer tell you, it's this is a casual interview. You don't have to wear. They might even say you don't have to wear a suit unless you want to. Well, guess what? You want to. Even if they tell you not to wear a suit, you still, at least my recommendation would be to dress one level up from what is expected, because that shows that you have a special respect for the company, for the person, and also for yourself, right? You are representing yourself, and if you feel that a suit is appropriate and makes you represents you and the quality of your candidacy, then by all means you should dress according to those expectations, right? So dress the part, okay? Now, dressing the part, checking for technology, making sure that the lighting is correct, making sure that you avoid distractions, right? All of these are important things. However, the most important thing in an interview, the most important aspect is making a connection, okay? Did I make a connection with my interviewer, all right? And how do you make a connection, all right? There's many ways, right? The idea is that you want to make sure that they don't forget you, that there's something special that you leave them with, okay? They're going to interview a lot of people, and you want to stand out. Most interviewees are going to be good. They're going to say very, very nice things, or they're going to be very professional, and they're going to be very articulate, and they're going to likely have the skills and attributes that the company is looking for. So how do they decide between them and you? And it's going to have a lot to do with that connection that you make with the interviewer, okay? And it may be a connection that has to do with culture, that has to do with a path that you have taken in life, or a story that you might have that is so special and unique that it leaves the interviewee with a very positive image of yourself, and really leaves them thinking and remembering you and saying, hey, you know what, I was so moved by Jimmy's story or Maria's story, and I'd really like to see him in this company because I think he would be fantastic. He seems like the type of person we want, and that story really made me appreciate XYZ, whatever. So this is the kind of connection that you want to make with the interviewer. Be prepared with a story, with an experience, with something that happened to you personally or professionally, or an anecdote that illustrates, that shows, that embodies, encompasses who you are, and that special ingredient that you have that makes you special and will separate you from the rest. Okay, make sure that you think that story through before the interview. Okay, don't be caught off guard and then start having to think about that story, because you will not remember it. And even if you remember it, you won't remember it well, and you'll be stumbling to tell it. So don't make it seem like it's totally rehearsed, but do think the story through, so that when it is asked, it sounds natural, but it comes out clear and articulate. Of course, be yourself, right? They want to hire you because of who you are and the qualities that you bring, right? So no sense in trying to be somebody else. No sense in trying to woo them or impress them with name dropping or things like that. Just simply be yourself. What I recommend here is before the interview, do your own in a piece of paper. You can draft out your own SWOT analysis, right? Just like firms have their SWOT analyses, you can draft out your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? Draft it out and see what are your strengths, okay? What are the opportunities that you seek, okay? And then, of course, your weaknesses, right, and threats, so that you understand what you want to avoid in the interview and what you want to highlight, right? So this is what I need to focus on. This is what I need to convey. My strengths is what I need to convey to the interviewer. And these others, weaknesses, are what I need to avoid, okay? So that would be a recommendation for you to do your own SWOT analysis before the interview. Of course, follow up immediately after the interview. That shows that you not only are you appreciative of the time that they took and for giving you the opportunity to interview, but also, again, as I said in week 2, it gives you one more opportunity to remind them of how great you are and why they should hire you, right? So it gives you another chance to impress them in writing. Okay, last but not least, and this one was not in the Harvard Business School 9 tips. This is my tip, and I think it's the most important of all the tips, and that's prayer. Both in terms of the spiritual benefit, but also the emotional benefit of prayer. I don't know about you, but for me, prayer soothes my soul. Prayer releases tension. It helps me cure anxiety. It puts my mind, my heart, my soul at ease. And so prayer is, before the interview, is emotionally beneficial. You're going to be nervous. It's natural. And so praying will help you manage those emotions. And in as far as the interview itself, pray to God and ask for guidance, ask for wisdom. Please, Lord, help me find the right words to show these people that I am the right person for this job. Help me through it, and fill my head with positive thoughts and articulate thoughts, right? And you will see how powerful that prayer is and how great you're going to be. So the Lord is there with you in the interview. Know that, and if you pray for guidance and for support, God will answer. I promise. So, taking that idea, this exercise, this interview exercise for this week is all about helping you find your purpose in life. What's your life's purpose, right? And CBU has its motto, right? Live your purpose. But it's not just living your purpose in the sense of the motto of CBU, but also think about, how do I find my purpose, and am I on the right path to finding my purpose? And so how do you know, right? How do you know? And these are, it's difficult to know if you are really on the path to finding your purpose. I created a list of questions that you might ask yourself. And so, for example, what am I doing? Okay, what am I doing now? Where am I going? Okay, what am I doing now? Is teaching what I want to do? Is that my purpose? Okay, is working at in the private sector my purpose? Is this what I set out for myself? Is this the vision that I want for my life? Okay, where am I going with this? Where do I want to go in life? Okay, so where you are going may not necessarily be where you want to go, and many of us find ourselves in a dead end, in a rut where we are being led in a direction that we don't want to go. And we find ourselves, because of bills and the requirements of this world, that we have to continue doing what we're doing because we feel we have no other choice. And so if you feel that way, then that's a signal from God that you may not be on the path to finding your real purpose or the right purpose for you. It's also, I think, important to ask yourself, what am I willing to give up for this job, for this path? And that's a very important question. I knew a man who was a very, very successful consultant, and he made $600,000-$700,000 a year consulting. Worked for half of the year only, because the other half he would not need to work, or simply was at home, but he didn't have to work for the entire year. But when he did work, he was gone from the house and his kids, and he didn't see his kids grow up. He didn't spend time with his wife, or enough time with his wife, because he was gone for a month and a half, and then he'd come home for a weekend and then get on the road again. And so he didn't see his kids grow up. He wasn't there as the father, providing emotional, not just financial, but emotional support, and just being there. What the kids needed was a father that was there. What the wife needed was a husband that was there. In his absence, both the kids and the wife eventually found somebody else to give them that emotional support. And it's a sad lesson that this friend of mine had to go through and learn. But in the end, he realized that he gave up everything to be a successful consultant and have a lot of money and a big house and a sports car and traveling business class and first class and spending money and all the material things that you could possibly want. But it came at a price, and the price was losing his family, and so he now regrets it. He wishes that he had asked himself that question: what am I giving up for this? And it's important that we come to terms with that question, because if our purpose in life is to be a father, a mother, a husband, a wife, to serve the Lord by providing, by being a provider, even if that doesn't necessarily lead to financial gains or material gains, then that's the purpose. That is what is the right path, and that is just as important, and more so, in fact, than any other gain that could come from a position or from another job. And so it's important that when we do aspire for a new position, a new job that perhaps pays more, but also what does it require and what does it entail as far as what am I having to give up to get this new job, and am I willing to give it up? Okay, so I leave you with that thought because it's important that we do take that into consideration. In fact, one of my favorite songs. In fact, one of my favorite artists. When I was in college, I went to school at Virginia Tech, and one of my favorite artists was a country singer, Garth Brooks, and his song, one of his cool songs, was "Unanswered Prayers," right? And some of God's greatest gifts are those unanswered prayers, and we at times may not like the result, or may think that why are we not getting that job? Why is somebody getting the job instead of us? And why did they get that promotion, or why did they get that opportunity? But perhaps if we trust in God's will and God's plan for us, we might see that it's those unanswered prayers that are actually leading us to the path that is set out for us and that is perfect for us. So think about that too, as you complete this course, and once you graduate, move forward in your professional careers. Okay, thank you very much for your time, and God bless you, and have a wonderful week. Thank you.